Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all having a fantastic evening, or whatever time it may be in your part of the world. Here in Australia, it's rather late in the evening, so I thought before I go to bed, I'll do another movie review. So this is an art house film from the Czech Republic. This has been dubbed in English. Well, I think it's been dubbed in English, so you don't have to contend with any subtitles. Released in the year 1994, directed by Jan Spankmeyer, and this film is called Faust. And basically, Faust is an adaptation of the legend in Germany of this man who sells his soul to the devil to get things better in his life. So basically, it's a story about the moral of the story is basically selling yourself out. Are you prepared to go that extra step to get a better life, but pretty much lose everything that you're about? So anyway, the spin-off, this version takes place in Prague, Czech Republic, and the main character named Faustus, he is wandering through the streets. He comes across this man who is handing out these very strange maps. Now this map leads to a very strange theatre. Now this theatre has been abandoned, but there are demons that are residing within this theatre, and they pretty soon come up to the attention of Faustus, who, one thing leads to another. He comes across this book, he recites these words, and unleashes the devil. So there is a very bizarre play, which basically plays out the version of this legend, and Faustus comes face to face with the devil, and he is forced to make a choice: either sign your soul over to the devil and become, an infinite wisdom and a better life, or resist the temptation and save his soul. So whether or not he gives into temptation, that's something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now, my thoughts on this very, very strange film. Now, Jan Spankmeyer, if you're not aware of this guy, he is an art house director. So it's either a director that you're going to love or hate. I think that a lot of people could be a little bit taken back by how weird this guy is. Now, it is an old story, but it is twisted into a very bizarre atmosphere that only Jan Spankmeyer could do. Now, in the past, I'm not a fan of animation combining with real time. I thought, some other filmmakers have tried to do this, and it really hasn't come across very well. It felt really out of place and just ruined the experience for me. So before even hearing about Jan Spankmeyer, I picked up on his work a little bit late. The first film I watched of his was Conspirators of Pleasure, and up until this film, that's the only movie I've seen of his, which is a big disappointment, but I'm looking to fix that. So Conspirators of Pleasure, it was really the first time where combining animation with real time worked. He combines something that really feels like it's out of this sort of dimension. It's on another dimension, and it's such a fantasy kind of feeling that it's more like a dream sequence than it is real life. So he's mixed in the real element with the animation superbly. It's sort of stop animation, clay animation, and puppetry, and I just feel that he does it to the point where you feel like you're in a nightmare. He provokes a very nightmarish response, and I'm positive that not everybody is going to like this, so I am not suggesting that you might enjoy it as much as I do, because this really is my thing. It's definitely going to set a lot of people aside and think, this is just too weird for me, and therefore you're not going to get a lot out of it. So be very careful going into a Jan Spankmeyer film. But if you like your weirdness, if you like films that take a while to really get going as far as a clear plot is concerned, then this one's definitely for you. This is one of the weirdest films I have seen. There are so many instances in the movie where I had no idea what was going on. It was just that bizarre. But it was funny, so it kept me going. I was laughing pretty much non-stop. And half of the laughter comes from the fact that it is just so bizarre, it comes so far out of left field, that you have no idea what the hell Jan Spankmeyer is going through his head. There is some really funny elements. There is a really funny character that's a puppet who was the jester. He's helping our main character. Thought he was hilarious, but it's just done in a very fantasy feeling. So it's like a nightmare basically, and it's very subtle. So I'm not going to say it's a straight out horror film. Like Conspirators of Pleasure, that was a sexual kind of film, but it has a subtlety to it that just provokes a nightmare response. It feels like you're just in a dream, but it's a very awkward dream. It's not a pleasant one, and that there are some hidden elements that are very sinister. And Faust is a lot darker than Conspirators of Pleasure, but it has that same feeling where it's a very subtle sort of danger that the film has. It is to do with dealing with Satan. I like the message, the moral of the story, basically selling out. I reckon that is relevant to today's society, with especially film filmmakers, foreign filmmakers going to America, basically leaving what they are behind and just making money, basically selling out. So that's the overall moral to the story. But Jan Svankmajer has taken the legend and he's made it his own. Now, the acting was fantastic. Peter Čepek, who is the main character, he is supposed to be one of Czech Republic's finest actors. He is absolutely captivating. You can't help but stare at this guy. There is just something about him. There's something, his manner, that just makes you want to see him. That he's just very, very interesting, and he commands respect without even saying anything. Now, Conspirators of Pleasure had no dialogue whatsoever, so it relied on visuals, and this film does exactly the same. It's visually stunning, and it tells a story on its own, so it is very much a genuine art house film. Now, this movie has dialogue, but it's very poetic. It's kind of like just a long poem, and that further contributes to the artistic value that Jan Svankmajer has going for this. So the clay animation looked absolutely fantastic, very surreal, and it just contributes, as I said, to that nightmarish feeling. So it's very, very, very funny, but there are some pretty deep and meaningful sort of chilling aspects to it. It's got with the scenes with the devil. There is one scene in particular where the devil is being tormented by the jester. Thought was one of the funniest moments I've had in a film. It's just the devil kind of seems clumsy, but at the same time very sinister, obviously. So it's just a way of characters that Jan Svankmajer has where he can belittle them. He has a lot of fun with them, but at the same time they're very real. So it's just one of these directors where you have to experience it to really, see for yourself. Words can't do this guy justice. The ending was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it. A very dark ending. So it comes across as very funny, but there is always that dark, sinister element to it, as is the case with all of Jan Svankmajer's films. So I've only seen 2 of them now, but if this is anything to go by, this is better than Conspirators of Pleasure. That's saying a lot, because I consider Conspirators of Pleasure to be an art house masterpiece, but this one was even better. This is a very strange film. It's not for everybody, so please be very careful. The plot, the way it's done, it's a simplistic story, but it's done in a very bizarre way. So it is very confusing, but if you can get past that, it is very, very enjoyable. I appreciate this film. I think this is a work of genius, and I'm sure a lot of people out there will appreciate it as much as I do. So overall, 5 stars for the Czech art house films Faust. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Alright guys, that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.